What's going on, guys? You're listening to The Engine on YouTube. Johnny Fogel, Nick Freeman, Nick Falk back for another video. Continuing the series of top 10 players. Yesterday we did shooting guards. Check that out. Day before that we did point guards. Go check that video out. But we want to give a quick shout out to our 105 subscribers as of yesterday. This channel has definitely gotten bigger than we thought it would in a really quick amount of time. We definitely want to thank the people who are watching and subscribed. But we want to challenge you guys. If we can get to 200 subscribers in about a week's time, give or take, I will shave my head, buzz cut it, and donate my hair to Wigs for Kids, a charity for kids who can't grow hair, aren't as fortunate as we are. But I'll donate my hair that I cut off to them. But we're going to be continuing same format as yesterday and the day before. We're going to go through our lists, who we think are the top 10 small forwards. We're going to debate. We're going to do analysis. We have our combined list of our average players that Nick Freeman did before the show. But with that all being said, we're going to get it started, and I've got my list for you guys here. So
yeah, and also, as before, we're using Basketball Reference to do the positions. And another thing about Johnny growing his hair, do not worry, he will keep the quarantine beard.
Obviously, as I love having it, and I've never felt freer. So we're going to be going 10-1. We're going to be going 10-1 in our lists. I'm going to go, and then I think Falk's going to go, and then Nick Freeman's going to go. So starting off with my list, I've got at 10, TJ Warren, 9, Andrew Wiggins, 8, Gordon Hayward, 7, Brandon Ingram, 6, Tobias Harris, 5, DeMar DeRozan, 4, Bojan Bogdanovic, 3, Chris Middleton, 2, Jimmy Butler, and 1, Kawhi Leonard.
All right, so I have 10, Tobias Harris, 9, Gordon Hayward, 8, Kelly Oubre, 7, Andrew Wiggins, 6, Bojan Bogdanovic, 5, DeMar DeRozan, 4, Chris Middleton, 3, Brandon Ingram, 2, Jimmy Butler, and 1, Kawhi Leonard.
I went 10, Gordon Hayward, 9, Will Barton, 8, Tobias Harris, 7, Andrew Wiggins, 6, DeMar DeRozan, 5, Bojan Bogdanovic, 4, Brandon Ingram, 3, Chris Middleton, 2, Jimmy Butler, and 1, Kawhi Leonard. By the way, these lists are all based off solely this year's performance. And starting out with the engine, this one actually had a little bit more. There were 12 different players who made our top 10 lists. But when we narrowed it down to 10, it became Kelly Oubre, who actually only Falk had on his list. He had him at 8. So Oubre, on the Phoenix Suns, he's averaging about 17 points per game, pretty solid scorer. Why'd you have him on your list, Nick?
Well, I had him over Tobias Harris, too. I think he's made a really big jump this year, and he's a better defensive player than a lot of these players in this list. He can guard basically every position because of his long wingspan, and he's also improved a lot in terms of three-point shooter and scoring off the dribble. So he's always been the athletic scorer, but he's really taking a step up this year.
I like Kelly Oubre. He just didn't make my list. He was my 11 spot. But the thing I like about Kelly Oubre is I know that he can get me a quick bucket, but he's just one of those players, we've talked about it, like similar to Patrick Beverley. Like, it's the things that you don't see like on the TV. Like, he's going to trash talk. He's going to slash you. He plays old school type of basketball. I really respect that. And especially considering that he was traded from his original team that he was drafted on, and that he plays a little weirdly, and he comes off injuries. I respect the pick. I just don't think he's having as good as a season as somebody like Tobias Harris, even though Tobias Harris is on a big contract.
Oubre has done a good job slotting into the starting role. He was a six-man last year. At times, he's been a really solid second scoring option. Just with Oubre, I think that he's too flashy of a player. Or not too flashy, but his game is kind of in flashes, if you know what I mean. Like, some games, it seems like he's doing nothing. Yeah, inconsistent. And with the guys I put ahead of him, like, you notice I had Will Barton on my list instead of Kelly Oubre. He was like my replacement. I just think Will Barton, what he brings defensively, is another level than Kelly Oubre. And scoring-wise, I don't really trust Oubre yet as a consistent scorer.
Personally, I think Oubre is a better defender. That's why I had him higher than some of these other guys. And
Barton?
Yeah, in my opinion.
No.
Personally, a much better perimeter defender. And what Johnny said about Kelly Oubre, he gets a lot of shit like on social media, and he's been traded and he was benched from Otto Porter on the Wizards. So, it's pretty impressive to see where he is right now.
I mean, I can give you that. I can respect it, but both players, more so Will Barton. You just don't hear about Will Barton ever.
He's
in the media.
underrated.
Like
He is.
ever.
Yeah.
I don't 100% like to call one player overrated or underrated because, it's like some players, they do what they do and they just play a different type of basketball. But Will Barton is definitely one of the more underrated basketball players.
He's a
For
silent
sure.
killer. He gets the job done.
100%.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So at number 9, right? Yeah, number 9, moving on, Gordon Hayward from the Celtics. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, I'll get it from here. So I think with Gordon Hayward, I cannot believe he's still playing. Like, we saw the injury 2 years ago.
Disgusting.
Like, immediately Kevin Harlan said, oh, Gordon Hayward just broke his leg. Disgusting injury. Obviously, I liked him more on the Jazz, and I don't like to see players leave their hometown teams for the money. I'm not a big sellout guy myself. It's just not the way I like basketball players. But you understand the decision, and you got to give Gordon Hayward a lot of respect. Like, he's fought his way back from this injury, and he's giving you a good 17 points a night. And I know Gordon Hayward isn't saying, like, I'm not the best player on this team. He knows that, and he knows what his role is. And even with all the injuries, and he knows he's not at his full what he used to be, he still gives you 17 points a night, and he's still a really good defender.
I agree with that. I don't agree with the defensive part. He's, I think, the worst defender in that starting lineup besides maybe Kemba Walker. But when you do play next to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, it's not that big of a deal because you have those athletes next to you. Yeah. But with Gordon Hayward, he still has those flashes of his former All-Star self. There will be games where he'll put up 30 and look like the best player on the Celtics. Just the reason he's kind of low on my list is he still will have those games where he's clearly not his past self, putting up 5 points, not shooting the ball very well. So that's kind of why I had him lower. Also inconsistency.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also agree with the thing that Johnny said about, he's averaging 17 points per game and he knows his role. So he's an efficient and he's had a pretty amazing comeback.
Yeah, the Celtics can be a fun team to watch. Next, number 8, Tobias Harris. He's having a little bit of a disappointing season, but still putting up over 19 points per game, 7 rebounds. Still a solid 3-point shooter, a little bit down.
So what you said about the 3-point shooting, they brought him in to be a 3-point shooter with that max deal. He is averaging 43% before that. Now he's down to 32%, which is the reason
35.
I just had him a lot lower. I think he's lower this year.
I think it was 35.
I think it's very interesting. I think it's interesting with Tobias Harris, and Tobias Harris is actually shooting this year 36% from the 3-point line, which is extremely disappointing in comparison to only a couple of years ago. He was shooting his best ever 43%, and last year he shot 32%. So I find him a little disappointing, but still, this Sixers team is just all types of confusing. But the thing is, when you play around players like Ben Simmons, it makes you look a little bit better just considering where they're at. But the 6th seed in the East is extremely disappointing for the Sixers team. And I know we give him a lot of negative love, but he's under a lot of pressure. Anytime you sign a really big $200 million contract, you are given a lot of negative love. Like what you said, a lot of negative energy is thrown your way. And he's still playing well. He's not playing bad, but I mean,
I think with Tobias Harris, I think they were asking him to be this big-time shooter and scorer to come in and play small forward for them, which isn't really who he is. He's a power forward who I'm not going to say he's not a big-time scorer, but he's a power forward who I think benefits from being on a team where he can kind of be the guy and have a little bit more versatility. Where on this team, it's sort of like they slotted him next to play or having to play on the wing all the time, having to be more of just a shooter. I don't think he has the same driving ability because he plays with Ben Simmons that he used to have, so that might be why he's down a little bit.
So I actually think his natural position is small forward. That's why I'm so down on him. This comes back to Ben Simmons. It's just disappointment. And they brought him in to be this great scorer, maybe even a solid defender, and he isn't playing that well.
Yes, I agree with you there, but I think the thing with Tobias Harris is his best season was easily in 2018, 2019. Nobody's going to deny that. Best field goal percentage, best 3-point percentage. He's never averaged more than 20 points a year. So I think considering him a big-time scorer is a little bit of a stretch. I wasn't a big fan of the deal at the time when they signed him for $200 million. I thought maybe even just let him go to the Nuggets, save your money, look to invest it elsewhere, because I wasn't a big fan of just putting all your money into Al Horford and Tobias Harris, get more reserves, and they let JJ Redick walk, and I really just didn't like that.
I'd agree with that.
So moving on to who's that? Number 7, we've got Andrew Wiggins. And Andrew Wiggins has been a little. I like Andrew Wiggins, and I think he's the same thing with Tobias Harris. He gets a lot of hate, but I mean, he's putting up numbers. He puts up 22 a night, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. So, Nick Freeman, how do you feel about it?
I mean, when we were talking about Tobias Harris being a disappointment this season, Andrew Wiggins is a career disappointment. He's always going to have that stigma of being compared to Kobe Bryant coming out, but he has put it together. Some pretty solid scoring years. He doesn't bring the defensive abilities you would like with his athleticism, but still, he's a guy who can get you in the 20s on any given night, lead your team. I think it's a bit of a weird fit with Golden State now, just because they're in such a tanking situation. But at Minnesota, he was pretty good next to Karl-Anthony Towns. And I think the rest of the season, if it happens, is sort of a waste for the team. I just think you're getting a good score out of him.
Yeah, this is an up year for Andrew Wiggins, in my opinion. He started off the year really well, averaging like 25 points per game. He's a solid player, but once again, with a lot of these players in this list, inconsistency. He's the definition of inconsistency.
This is his best season to date, though, statistically. I mean,
do you consider him a bust?
Not yet. I think
that
not
draft
yet.
class was awful, but I would consider him a bust.
I think
it's tough because he still can't score.
You got to consider with Andrew Wiggins. Oh, you go first.
Well, I'm just saying the potential. Like, the potential is still there. His career isn't over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just feel bad from, like, when he was on the Timberwolves. I think what we don't talk about enough is being in the perspective of a player. Like, the Timberwolves went a full month losing 15 straight games. They won 1 game, and then they traded him. Could you imagine being in that mindset? You lose, you win 1 game without him. Once he's gone, it's ridiculous to me.
It's brutal.
I don't know, but he's still having a statistically really good year. Like, he's shooting like 47% from the field, 33.9% from the 3-point line, which is tied with his best season, which was a couple years ago. But still, I don't know if he's a bust necessarily, but I think he will be when it's all said and done.
No doubt he deserves some credit.
Yeah. Next, at number 6, DeMar DeRozan, who's on the San Antonio Spurs for now. I think this is kind of a tough spot for DeMar DeRozan. He's not really a true small forward. He was a shooting guard his whole career. He's putting up 22, 5.5, and 5.5. So he's become a better passer throughout his career, but not quite the same scorer he used to be. And he still doesn't have a 3-point shot, which bothers me.
Yeah, all you.
Oh, okay. Well, his 3-point shot is really the problem, but I actually had him higher than Bojan on this list just because his defense has improved a lot this year. He's actually been one of my most underrated players for this season, despite the 3-point shooting problem. But, I think he's probably going to be off of the Spurs. Let's see where he goes next, but I think he's a solid player.
I think the thing with DeMar DeRozan is the game is definitely we talked about it yesterday with CJ McCollum. The game is 100% moving away from players like this. DeMar DeRozan is averaging 27% from the 3-point line, but he's shooting 53% from the field goal. I'd rather have a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic, who through the month of, I think, December to March, I don't think anybody was shooting as a small forward better than him from the 3-point line. Maybe Kawhi Leonard, but it's close.
I agree.
Bojan Bogdanovic, I really like those types of players who they don't look that athletic, but they can get you minutes and they can get you points when you need it. And DeMar DeRozan, it seems like the game is moving away from players like him. Excuse me.
Yeah, DeMar will not be on the Spurs next year. That's kind of a sneak peek at free agency for this summer. He's one of those guys who, he just doesn't really fit with Popovich. And we'll see, maybe he can be a number 2 or 3 piece on a championship team, or maybe go for that Jimmy Butler role and make the playoffs with the team if there is one. But I think being real, the Spurs aren't where he is going to succeed.
Yeah. All right. Number 5, Bojan Bogdanovic. Kind of already talked about him a little bit, but as we said, he's a great shooter. Great shooter. He's made a lot of clutch shots for the Jazz this year. He's been one of the most underrated free agency ads. So, I mean, a breakout season, maybe not as good defensively, but just a pure scorer off the dribble, shooting really from anywhere.
He not necessarily the way he plays, but he just reminds me of how the Pacers acquired Domantas Sabonis. They got him for nothing. Like, they got him
Paul George.
Almost. Yes, but come on. Domantas Sabonis has turned into like something like that. That's not what I mean. Bojan Bogdanovic is just nowhere near.
Boring.
Nobody knew, like, he would turn into one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. This is exactly what the league is about. He is the future, or at least he's the future now, but this is the present. Obviously, that's confusing, but he reminds me so much. Like, I like the European players so much. I like Lucas so much.
I think
he reminds me of that a lot.
Any team wants a Bojan Bogdanovic on there. He's just a pure offensive weapon. Also, when you say he lacks on defense, I don't think they need that as much because they have Rudy Gobert, who's the best interior defender in the league. You talk about his closing ability, which has been awesome to see this year. Also, he shoots over 90% from the free throw line, which is ridiculous. Like, that's amazing. Any team wants that. He shoots over 40 from three. I just think he's that guy. Any team in the NBA would want Bojan Bogdanovic. DeMar DeRozan, I don't think a lot of teams would want him.
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about here is not starting a franchise, because I think Bojan Bogdanovic is the ideal role player in the NBA, but I think DeMar DeRozan has performed better this season.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to number 4, we got Brandon Ingram. This guy's been kind of I don't think he's been a surprise necessarily. We all knew how talented he was. He was getting Kevin Durant comparison out of college from Duke, even though he got hurt a little bit, but this was the underrated part of the trade when Anthony Davis came to the Pelicans. But I put him on my breakout seasons list, and I'm really happy to see that he did break out, Nick Freeman.
Yeah, he's put up over 24 points per game. He was an amazing first option throughout the season. He's looks like a mini KD, which was what they wanted. He isn't KD. He doesn't have that raw shooting ability or that easy shot ability, but he still has that kind of lengthiness and fight, like still has that strength even though he looks so skinny. He was a really solid first option. I think now that Zion's back, his role has changed a little bit, but when you're putting up those numbers, I think he definitely belongs in the top 5 small forwards list. I need to ask Johnny, you had him at, I believe, number 7 on your list, and Nick, you had him at number 3, so there's a giant disparity there. How do you explain that?
Nick Falk?
Yeah. Okay, so with Brandon Ingram, he's averaging 24 points per game. It's just been amazing, his transformation from the Lakers to the Pelicans. It's obviously because of the pressure drop-off. It's not easy playing with LeBron, but he's just been an amazing scorer this year. Actually improved on defense a little bit, and he's a playmaker for this team. He's a leader, and he distributes the ball in a pretty good way. So I just think he's head and shoulders above some of the players that you had.
I think I'll agree with you. I think I gave a little too much credit to to Tobias Harris and to DeMar DeRozan, and I did kind of just go on a little tangent on DeMar DeRozan being an antiquated basketball player. But I think I'm giving a little more credit to DeMar DeRozan, just a little bit. Just he's leading a Spurs team. I don't even know if they need leading, but he's just providing veteran leadership to a Spurs team. And obviously Brandon Ingram can't do that. And now that Zion's back, I think that Zion, like you said, Nick Freeman, diminishes Brandon Ingram's role just a little bit, puts him obviously at the 2 position in the who are we going to if we have like 10 seconds left in a game is what I mean, not the shooting guard position. So, yeah. I really like Brandon Ingram. I think I'm not giving him enough credit, but I think in the future, next year specifically, I think he's 100% going to be a guaranteed on everybody's list, a top 5 small forward in the league.
I agree. And I think it's cool to see with the Pelicans how Lonzo and Brandon Ingram have had the second chance and really stepped it up this season. Next, number 3, Chris Middleton of the Milwaukee Bucks. He's another amazing role player that any team would win. He's averaging over 20 points a game. He's an amazing second option to Giannis, a great defender. And also earlier this season, we saw a taste with Giannis out. Middleton put up 50 against the Wizards, which was just one of the best games of the season. He can shoot the ball, lights out. Like we've said, a great defender. I just really like him.
Yeah. Okay, so with Middleton, you know what you're going to get. He's an efficient three-point shooter, but he doesn't really have volume. The thing that separates from Ingram and Middleton for me is that when you think of like a sidekick to the superstar, when you think of the Bucks, you do not think of Chris Middleton and Giannis. You think of Giannis. So that's just the differing factor. He's a good scorer, but he's not a sidekick and he's not a leader either.
Here's the question with Chris Middleton, because I think this isn't a thinking. This is, you look at the numbers, this is statistically his best season to date. He's averaging 50% from the field goal line. He's averaging 41% from the three-point line and 90% from the free throw line. Is this his best season? Is it possible for him to top this?
Is it? I don't think it is his best season, but what you said, I do not think it's possible for him to top this. That's the reason
I
why
would've-
giving him a max contract is a little flawed.
Oh,
I
I
agree with you.
disagree with that. I think first off, after seeing what he was able to do without Giannis, to my point earlier, showed he has that natural scoring ability. Or maybe if he didn't have a Giannis on his team, they're preparing for maybe Giannis to leave in free agency. He could be putting up 25 a game. He is that good of a scorer. And also, I think to the Giannis free agency point, to entice him, might as well bring back his running mate. Maybe not his sidekick, but definitely a really solid second option there to keep him. So I think he's worth the money.
I mean, he's probably worth the money if you're talking about keeping Giannis, but I'm just really not sure if he's a sidekick to a championship team.
We'll see.
All right.
All right. Moving on. Number 2, Jimmy Butler from the Heat. Breakout year. He's led
Not breakout.
a breakout year for his team, I'd say. This is an
Yeah.
unexpected Heat team, and he's what I'm trying to say is the box score doesn't look that great for Jimmy Butler, but he's elevated this team in almost every way. He's a great defender, solid scorer, really clutch, and it's just his personality. That's one of the biggest reasons he's at number 2.
He's a pusher.
Yeah.
He's definitely a pusher. He's a leader. He's bringing veteran experience. Still, absolutely, like DeMar DeRozan, cannot shoot the basketball at all. 25% from the three-point
I don't
line.
know.
He can't shoot. So
He can shoot in clutch moments though, and I think
yes,
that's big.
that's the thing. He's elevated Kendrick Nunn and Derek Jones. Where did Kendrick Nunn come from? Where did Derek Jones come from? I have no idea. It seemed like when he signed
He's
with the
elevated
Heat,
everyone.
exactly. Like when he signed with the Heat, it just seemed like he was going for the money, and maybe he was at the time, but his motives had clearly changed because this Heat team, I think what are they, 2 or they're 4 in the East? I think is where it stands right
4.
now.
4.
Four or
I think
five.
4. I think it's the
maybe
Raptors
even
at 2.
5.
Something like that. But this Heat team, I had skepticism about the Bucks early in the year, and I still do a little bit. Obviously, the season is paused just a little bit. That's a different conversation. But I was thinking that the Heat could, if they were the 4 or 5 seed, they could probably take down the Bucks in an early round. I was saying this is a team that could match up against the Bucks and maybe even take them down.
If there's a guy to guard Giannis,
It's
a
Jimmy Butler.
combination of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo is not bad. But since we're just talking about Jimmy Butler, I think there was a lot of skepticism about his leadership abilities in Minnesota and Philadelphia. I think he's completely changed that narrative. He's made everyone on his team better, as you said. Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Derek Jones, just pretty much this whole roster. They're they're a really fun team to watch, especially when they're playing at home. And even though his stat line isn't great, it's still 20 points per game, 6 assists, and 6.5 rebounds, which is a very versatile stat line, which you want on a full team, or which you want out of any player on your team.
And being one of the best perimeter defenders in the league.
All right.
Yeah, that's true. He's one of the best two-way guys.
Moving on to the number 1. Obviously, you guessed who it would be. Kawhi Leonard. This man is ruthless. He's averaging 27 points a game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Unbelievable stat line. Nick Freeman, here's the question. Is Kawhi Leonard the best player on the planet?
No. I was talking about this with Nick Falk actually yesterday. We think there's a top 4. It's Kawhi Leonard, LeBron, Kevin Durant, and Giannis. I'm sorry, Steph and Harden and Davis, but I think those are the top 4. And I think you could rank them any of the 4 ways. Personally, I would take LeBron, KD, and Giannis over Kawhi. But I think it's so close, and I do think Kawhi is easily the best two-way player. Not easily, but he is the best two-way player in the world. The best defender. He has those long arms. And he's probably the number 3 in the MVP running, in my opinion, leading the Clippers to 2nd in the West. And even though he takes those load management games, he's still a stud. He still has played enough, and he's an offensive weapon as well as being the best defender in the league.
The thing that fascinates me about Kawhi is it seems like him and the Clippers right now are just chilling. He's a killer. So that's why I'm just waiting for him to unleash himself. Because when I see him play, it's kind of just like he's, dribbling the ball up and down the court and then, shooting a post fade or something like that. I feel like he could, when he really outstretches his limits, the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard could go really far.
I think the thing with this Clippers team, they're just unbelievably dangerous. They just have so much depth. This team took the Warriors last year to 6 games without him. They get him. Kawhi Leonard is a just like we talked about it yesterday off camera. When you watch old games of Michael Jordan is just ruthless. Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs last year, I think that might have been the best performance, one of the best performances a single player has ever had in the playoffs. He's absolutely relentless, and Kawhi Leonard is just the whole goal with the Clippers is they just don't want to play the Lakers in an early round, and they put themselves in a position where they just won't have to.
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard
He has that.
I think to modern day Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm. He has that relentless attitude while still being so nonchalant and not really talking, being a kind of aloof guy. But
Seems
he's
like
a stud.
Seems like a movie star where he just doesn't care, but obviously he does care. Weird comment, but that's gonna do it for the show today. Thank you for watching. Tomorrow we're gonna be doing power forwards, next day centers, and then thanks to you guys getting us to 100 subscribers, 100 plus now. We're gonna be starting our top 50 list saga. More content is on the way. Make sure to smash the like, share, subscribe. Get us to 200 so I can shave my head. Donate it to charity. We're excited. So many video ideas to come. Just because the quarantine's on doesn't mean we're going to stop, and we're not going to stop. The engine is revving, and we're ready to put it in drive and get it to go. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, please like. That would really help us out. And have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Power forward videos tomorrow.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.